Alright, good evening. Last video for the night. Alright, so anyhow, I'm going to keep this general. I'll throw into some examples, but the whole vigilante justice that we've been seeing has often taken some, really bad turns. Obviously the recent case, is the doxing of people, who celebrate Charlie Kirk's death or don't show any empathy. But we've seen it, in countless other times. Like, for example, the predator catcher channels, and their tactics and, what they use. And, when the subject doesn't get arrested, because again, it depends on what county you go to. Sometimes they arrest the perp, sometimes they don't. And there was one time where they actually arrested both the perp and the catcher, because I guess the catcher misused 911 or some shit. And I'm not going to talk about that one that was killed, because that one obviously wasn't really on it. He wasn't on a sting when he was killed. He was just having a pissing contest with two teens, 17 and 18. And again, there's always been those examples, where they get the wrong person. Much like the previous video I just did, where the woman's post got misconstrued as a celebration. And allegedly, according to her, it wasn't. It had nothing to do with Kirk's death. And and that's the problem when people almost try to take the law into their own hands, and that's borderline. What they're trying to do. I want to make it clear. If they get caught by the company for doing shit, and companies have their own policies, regarding social media on and off the clock. If the company does that, it's still pretty, iffy, but, company also has to maintain its image. And, we live in this world where we're all being fucking watched. I'm being watched right now as I'm doing this video, even though I'm surrounded by walls in my room. I'm pretty sure there's somebody looking at me through my computer and this phone that I'm holding in my hand. And basically, it's just, I think more bad is going to come out of it than good. I mean, obviously, if I had kids and they were in the school system, I would not want a teacher who celebrates a death to be teaching my kids. You know what I mean? Same thing with a doctor. Because doctors sign a Hippocratic oath. Like the one who celebrated Kirk's death, and the nurse didn't like that, and she gets, in trouble. But obviously, I imagine she filed a lawsuit, and they investigated the doctor, and he resigned due to, obviously embarrassment. I don't think he'll ever be able to practice again, because that's just too much of a liability. Especially if he has a patient who's a Trump supporter. So again, this whole vigilante justice type system is going just way too far. It's almost like an offhand example would be like some of those manosphere channels, where they talk about, women making false allegations is automatically true in everybody's eyes just because a woman says it. That's an offhand example. But anyhow, while posts on social media, barring those that incite violence, which obviously can result in legal action. That's a whole different ballgame in of itself. But You know, like I said in my other video, the problem, the reservation I have with this doxing and cancel culture. I don't believe in cancel culture. I'm not gonna make it my fucking mission to fucking, you know, snoop for somebody just because they made a post. You know, let karma do its thing. You know what I'm saying? You know, I got enough on my plate. You know, than to worry about what other people are fucking posting. Um, but yeah, I think that more bad than good could actually, happen with this. It's very, very risky as a whole. And, again, if the docs are posted on, public where other people will see it, then why doesn't the doctor just contact the company himself? But I suspect if he or she were to do that himself, it wouldn't generate everything. They probably look at it as just one person calling. And probably like, whatever. But, if enough people, and if they do that, then, maybe the company might talk to the employee, you can't post shit like that, you got to take that down. But, again, especially with the teachers, and that's where it can be a slippery slope because they do work for the government. And, the whole government freedom of speech thing, that's certainly a debate in itself. But if what they post is causing disruption to their work, then obviously they got to be let go. It's unfortunate. And again, that could be that slippery slope. Be let go or resign. Let me know what you think in the comments. Anyhow, I'm going to eat some food and I'm going to go to bed. I'll talk to you.